Good evening and welcome. This is Newsfirst Primetime News, coming to you live and direct from a Newsfirst studio here in Colombo. I am Shaheen Durangpati.
And I am Nicola D'Zoiza. We start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Germany to assist Sri Lanka to regain GSP+. A statement by the German Foreign Minister. Opposition whip urges the Attorney General to be summoned before Parliament over avant-garde. A special court in line with the Constitution to ensure justice for human rights violations. Lakshman Siniviratna and Bimal Ratnayaka sworn in as MPs in Parliament.
Germany has promised to support Sri Lanka to regain the GSP Plus concession. This sentiment was echoed by the visiting German Minister of Foreign Affairs to President Maithripala Sirisena today.
German Minister for Foreign Affairs Dr. Frank-Walter Steinmeier had expressed his commitment to work with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Sri Lanka to ensure that Sri Lanka regains the GSP Plus concession. The President had reiterated that measures are being taken to ensure the independence of the judiciary and the promotion and protection of reconciliation and democracy. The President had also invited German investors to visit Sri Lanka and explore new opportunities. The German Foreign Minister had said that the German government commended the efforts undertaken by Sri Lanka to ensure democracy and reconciliation. An invitation was also extended to the Sri Lankan President to visit Germany. President Maithripala Sirisena will leave to the United States tomorrow to address the 70th sessions of the UN General Assembly in New York.
The German Foreign Minister also met with his Sri Lankan counterpart, Minister Mangala Samaravida, today.
Sri Lanka is now consolidating its democracy and transitioning towards a rule-based polity and economy. We are laying the groundwork for a new constitution, including a new electoral system based on what is popularly known as the German model, resolving long-standing grievances of minority communities and embarking on wide-ranging economic reforms to create a social market economy with a genuinely level playing field.
Natürlich auch die Garantie.
There is no cookie-cutter model. One size fits all models that could apply reconciliation. Coming to terms with the past is difficult and it can be painful. But what we can say is that elements come into play, such as the truth-seeking, recompensation, justice and a guarantee of non-recurrence. And I believe it is best to develop outlooks for future prospects. Outlook for the younger generation, an outlook for the future that guarantees that a society does not fall back into old models of conflict or conflicts that are related to the past.
Für Berufsausbildung hier in Sri Lanka.
There's a proposal coming from the United Nations to build a special court of justice for the war atrocities that have been committed here in Sri Lanka. Germany is still at the head of the Human Rights Council in the United Nations right now. What is the German position on this?
Sensibel ist bei der Frage den
I believe that we will provide international assistance. There will have to be international assistance, but to what extent will remain to be seen during the deliberations at the UNHRC. But we exchanged views and ideas on this morning.
Zeigen. Einige Ideen dazu haben wir heute Morgen ausgetauscht.
What expectations do you have toward the UN with the tribunal, and what are your own ideas about the judicial work that has to be done with regard to the atrocities during the war?
In fact, we have already given our ideas on how this problem of accountability and justice be resolved in the country. We feel that there is no major differences, one or two areas where we have to find the point of convergence, especially in the type of judicial mechanism we envisage. And as we have already indicated to the UN and other international partners, we always welcome international assistance.
Chief Opposition Whip and JVP leader MP Anura Kumar Dissanayake, speaking in Parliament, questioned the conduct of the Attorney General over the Avantgarde court case.
The report of the Attorney General on the Avantgarde court case proves that the law bows down to those with financial and political power. It was revealed that 3,154 automatic firearms and 770,059 bullets for those firearms had been stored in 7 cargo containers aboard the Mahanura vessel anchored at the Galle harbour. If firearms that are used within Sri Lanka are to be legal, a license needs to be issued for each and every firearm by the regulator. The firearms that are used by the police and the 3 armed forces are included in their inventory. Any individual or institution will not be permitted to use a firearm in accordance with the Firearms Act. Therefore, all these firearms are illegal firearms. I say to this chamber that all these firearms are illegal. They have been used in various smuggling rings. A complaint filed by Captain U.S.K. Dissanayake, who served as a sea marshal, highlights details of a weapons smuggling ring. What is the guarantee that can be given that these weapons were not used in crimes in Sri Lanka or outside the country? The Prime Minister is seated before me. During the investigation review headed by the Prime Minister, Solicitor General Suhada Gamlath had informed that he was told to recommend that the passport of the owner of Avantgarde, which was impounded by court at the time, to be released by 2 powerful members of the government. Solicitor General Suhada Gamlath met the President and asked him if he can issue a notice to arrest Gotabaya Rajapaksa over this matter. He said that he raised that question at a discussion which was attended by the Prime Minister. However, at the review held the following week, Suhada Gamlath had said that there were no criminal charges that can be filed to act on the Avantgarde issue. However, a senior officer at the AG's department with 25 years of experience who was handling these documents, Additional Solicitor General Navaratna Bandara, had pointed out that criminal charges can be filed against Avantgarde under 3 separate acts. At that time, Minister Mangala Samaraweera had said that it is not suitable to file charges under the Prevention of Terrorism Act and to file charges under the other 2 acts. I am in possession of the report that was presented to the Attorney General by Additional Solicitor General Navaratna Bandara in this regard. In my hand is the Sinhala copy of that report. According to this report and what was mentioned at that review, cases can be filed under the Firearms Ordinance, Explosives Act and the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The Attorney General is the government's attorney. He is paid by the state. This Attorney General had informed court that there isn't sufficient evidence to file criminal charges. The Attorney General of this country, who depends on the taxpayers' money, should understand that he needs to submit the charges that have been independently investigated by his senior officers. The police and the honest officers at the AG's department had committed themselves to file these charges. How then can he reject them with a strike of a pen? We would like to know how the Attorney General got such powers. Can he classify illegal firearms as legal firearms? We wish to tell the AG not to misuse the powers of his position. He is the head of a department. He should be summoned before Parliament. He needs to provide answers to the questions raised by the MPs. He needs to inform Parliament how the charges made against those with financial and political power are swept under the rug. Documents against the corrupt persons of the previous government are on his desk. We informed the people of the country that these are not the decisions of the Attorney General, but the decisions taken at the top in the coalition government. I wish to ask the government as to what action will be taken in the future over the floating armour in Galle. Speaking at a media briefing on the 14th of May 2015, Cabinet spokesperson Rajitha Senaratne said that he was approached to be given 20 million rupees per month as a bribe to sweep under the rug the charges by Avantgarde. If this is no wrong, who is it that is trying to give bribes? According to the CID report, the accounts for the past 2 years of Avantgarde were investigated. The revenue for the past 20 years is 3.039 billion rupees. However, what has happened? According to the accounts, 853 million rupees had been spent on gifts and donations. The expenditure of the chairman was 1,294 million rupees. His wife's expenditure was 191 million rupees. Reasons have not been provided for the expenditure of 574 million rupees. Information has revealed that Avantgarde had provided money to the Sirilia Savia and Pushpa Rajapaksa Foundation. What are these suspicious expenses of Avantgarde? In addition, what are the institutions, persons and foundations to which Avantgarde had made donations to? Also, Parliament has to be informed on the amount of money that was given to each individual. According to the agreement between Rakna Araksha Lanka and Avantgarde, 50% of the profit made must be given to Rakna Lanka. Such payments have not been made. Please inform Parliament on how much was paid thus far.
වර්තමාන ආණ්ඩුවේ වංචා දූෂණ පිළිබඳ ලිට්මස් පරීක්ෂාව තමයි මේක.
The law bows down to political and financial power. All are illegal firearms. What is the guarantee that these firearms were not used for any criminal activity? Cases can be filed. Inform the AG not to misuse the powers of his position. Questions the Prime Minister as to what action will be taken in the future over the floating armory at the Galle harbour. Bribes offered. Money provided for Sirilia Savia and Pushpa Rajapaksa Foundation. What are the suspicious expenses of Avantgarde? As per the agreement, how much was given to Rakna Lanka from the profits earned?
Also making headlines this evening, 3 new MPs were sworn in before Speaker Karu Jayasuriya.
The UPFA's Lakshman Seneviratne, Palitha Tevara Peruma from the United National Party and Bimal Ratnayaka from the JVP were sworn in as MPs today. Lakshman Seneviratne was sworn in as an MP to the seat left vacant by Chamara Sampath Dasanayaka, who was appointed as the Chief Minister of the Uva province. Palitha Tevara Peruma, who did not attend the previous sessions of Parliament as a result of the death of his son, was also sworn in as an MP today. JVP nationalist Bimal Ratnayaka was sworn in as an MP for the seat left vacant by S. Maya Dunne. Parliament today granted approval for the appointment of the 3 civil representatives to the Constitutional Council. The names of Dr. A.T. Ari Ratna, Dr. Radhika Kumaraswamy and President's Counsel Shibli Aziz were submitted for approval in Parliament today.
Meanwhile, seating arrangements were made for members of the 8th Parliament today. R. Sambandhan, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Anura Kumara Disanayaka, Chamal Rajapaksa, Sarath Amunugama, Arumugam Thondaman, Pavitravani Arachi, Dinesh Gunawardena, Janaka Bandara, C.B. Ratnayaka, Dallas Alho Peruma, Bimal Veeravangsa and Vasudeva Nanekkara were provided with front row seats in the opposition.
Addressing a literary festival in Horana today, UPFA MP Vidura Vikramanayaka expressed the following views.
I am tired of being an MP. I cannot imagine how I am to be seated in Parliament when looking at what is happening around us. Are we to sit with the government or the opposition? I believe that an environment has been created where we cannot work according to our conscience.
Paul Patton, Public Affairs Officer at the United States Mission in Geneva, said that the US draft resolution on Sri Lanka is still under discussion.
Speaking the news first exclusively this evening, he said that the draft resolution will be finalized on Thursday. News First contacted senior journalist Sunanda Deshapriya, who is based in Geneva, for a comprehensive update on today's informal sessions at the UN Human Rights Council.
The Sri Lankan government came with a very strong new recommendations and amendments to the draft. Sri Lankan government wanted to delete number of operative paragraphs as well as the preamble paragraph, which mainly dealt on the past and which were taken from the last year resolution, which actually talk about human rights violations and continuing human rights violations in Sri Lanka. But other countries, especially the European countries and Canada, oppose, I would say, almost all or the gist of the Sri Lankan government amendment, saying that they wanted to see the draft as it is. Indian government did not say anything. As things stand now, we will be able to know whether the resolution on Sri Lanka is going to be a consensus resolution or it will be going to be a contested resolution between the core group and Sri Lanka. If it is going to be a contested resolution, the vote will be on 2nd October, that is the last day of the Human Rights Council session.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe explained in Parliament today the processes set out by the United Nations Human Rights Council and the steps that will be taken in that regard.
Accountability is an important factor to build the rule of law and trust among all communities. For this, we require judicial as well as administrative reforms. Parliament will implement two mechanisms for the truth-seeking process. One is the establishment of a commission under the advice of South Africa for truth, justice, reconciliation and the non-recurrence of the mistakes of the past. We hope to establish a special council through Parliament that is constitutional and will comprise of expert lawyers. This will take into account the right of the victims to seek justice and will also focus on providing a solution to the issue where persons go unpunished over the human rights violations experienced by all communities. We hope to establish an office to look into providing compensation. In order to ensure the non-recurrence of the mistakes of the past, administrative and judicial reforms are required. We also need to follow a number of processes, including the passing of a new constitution. We also hope to take a number of measures to amend the penal code so that hate speech and forceful disappearance will be termed as crimes. We also hope to establish a commission to formulate the constitution. These will be domestic creations reached through dialogue. I wish to state that this is not a mechanism that can be created by an international institution or person. The US has come together with a number of countries to put forward a resolution that will be in favor of the country. I will not make any comment on that at this time. I wish to mention one thing. The foreign minister, the ambassador and myself have discussed that. There is no issue. Countries that supported us before, like Russia and China, have been approached. I held a discussion with the Indian Prime Minister. As the US put forward the resolution, they have a responsibility to inform and discuss with other countries. We will act on this only after informing this Parliament. We will inform Parliament.
The Prime Minister ended his speech with an excerpt from the Dhammapada.
Sabbe tasita dandasa sabbe sang jivitam piang hatanang upamang katwa nanghenat gataye.
Sri Lanka. We request that a day be provided to debate on the special court that will be established to investigate the alleged war crimes and its function. Please expedite the measures to hold this debate. After we table the reports of the Paranagama Commission and the Udalagama Commission, we can allocate a day or two to debate this.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, issuing a communique, made a proposal to the present government to reject the OHCHR report on Sri Lanka.
The former president states that his government did not in any way support the investigations. Giving reasons for not engaging with the UN on the matter, the communique states that the investigation was held outside the usual practice of the UNHRC, the non-appointment of an independent three-member committee, and the fact that the High Commissioner for Human Rights does not have a mandate to conduct such an investigation. Referring to the UNHRC as a body dependent on funds pumped by Western nations, the communique issued by Rajapaksa states that the independent status of the UNHRC thus is questionable. Rajapaksa is of the view that since the key positions as well as half of the staff of the Office of the High Commissioner comprises of citizens of Western nations, the UNHRC functions based on the whims and fancies of these Western powers. Rajapaksa reminds that in 2014, only 23 of the 47 countries supported the US resolution against Sri Lanka. The communique goes on to note that even though there is a notion that the gravity of the report issued had toned down with the appointment of the new government, in reality it was not the case. Rajapaksa points out that since Sri Lanka is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, a case cannot be filed against Sri Lanka at the International Court of Justice. However, by proposing the establishment of a hybrid special war crimes court, the OHCHR had recommended the only practical system it could hold Sri Lanka accountable for.
Meanwhile, opposition representatives expressed views on the OHCHR report today.
ජනාධිපති මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මහතා බැංකි මූන් මහතා සමග ඒකාබද්ධ ලියවිල්ලකට අත්සන් තිබුණා.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa and Ban Ki-moon signed a joint communique. As a country, we made a pledge to the United Nations. The High Commissioner for Human Rights in Geneva acted based on this joint communique that was signed. Subsequently, the Darusman report was filed. Thereafter, the Lessons Learned and Reconciliations Commission was established and a report was published. However, the recommendations of the report was not implemented. Today, the report of the High Commissioner for Human Rights was tabled as a result of the pledge made by the Rajapaksa regime. We do not endorse the proposal to introduce a hybrid court. The present government has a responsibility to strengthen the judiciary and make it independent.
The The Gazette notification on the subject purview of ministers was published by the government printers today. According to the Gazette, the functions of a number of ministries and institutions have been amended.
20 institutions will come under the purview of the Ministry of Policy Planning and Economic Affairs, which is under Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Employees Trust Fund will come under the purview of the Prime Minister. In addition, the National Youth Services Council and all other youth-related institutions will come under the purview of the Prime Minister. All institutions relating to transport, including buses, private buses, train travel and air travel, will come under the Ministry of Transport. Minister of Transport Nimal Siripal de Silva will also overlook the Airport and Aviation Services Limited and Civil Aviation Authority of Sri Lanka. However, Sri Lankan Airlines and Mihin Lanka will come under the purview of Minister of Public Enterprise Development Kabir Hashim. All state banks and companies and institutions that are administered by the state banks will come under the purview of Minister Kabir Hashim. Minister of Finance Ravi Karunanayake has been given 26 institutions including the Treasury and its departments, the Inland Revenue Department, Valuation Department and Sri Lanka Customs. The minister is also in charge of the Insurance Board of Sri Lanka, Excise Department and National Lotteries Board. Minister of University Education and Highways Lakshman Kiriyala has been vested with the task of broadening the avenues to access higher education as well as creating a national road system of high standard through a balanced development. 5 higher education institutions and the Road Development Authority will come under the purview of the Minister of University Education and Highways. The Urban Development Authority will come under the purview of Megapolis and Western Province Development Minister Partli Champika Ranawaka. The Kottawa Kaduwala and Kadawada Urban Development Project will come under the purview of Minister Champika Ranawaka. 12 institutions will come under the purview of Minister of Housing and Construction Sajith Premadasa. The minister is vested with the task of implementing housing aid programs as well as proposed housing schemes for low-income earners and special community groups. 12 agriculture institutions will come under the purview of Minister Dimindu Disanayake. All fertilizer companies will come under the purview of the Ministry of Agriculture, while the Paddy Marketing Board will come under the purview of Minister of Rural Economy P. Harrison. The Department of Animal Production and Health and the Department of Mineral Resources will come under the purview of the Ministry of Rural Economy. 36 institutions including Lanka Sugar Company Limited and Hingurana Sugar Factory will come under the purview of Minister of Industry and Commerce Rishad Badiuddin. The Kantale Sugar Factory will come under the purview of Minister of Lands MKADS Gunawardena. The Tower Hall Theatre Foundation, the Public Performance Board, National Performing Arts Centre and the Central Cultural Fund will come under the purview of Minister of Education Akhila Viraj Karyasam. The Department of Cultural Affairs and the National Museum will come under the purview of Minister S.B. Navinna. Minister of Telecommunications and Digital Infrastructure Harin Fernando has been vested with the task of providing all with telecommunication facilities with the use of technology. ICTA and SLT and the control of all IT parks will come under the purview of this ministry. The newly formed Development Strategies and International Trade Ministry headed by Malik Samaravikrama will be vested with the task of strengthening international relations, upgrade regional cooperation and provide higher education facilities for the youth. The ministry is in charge of the institutions namely the BOI and Mahapola Trust Fund.
The murder of the miner in Kotadeniyawa was discussed in the House of Legislature today.
At the
cabinet meeting today, a special decision was made to appoint a cabinet subcommittee to inquire into what action can be taken against crimes against minors as well as rape. The committee will make recommendations on how to prevent these crimes and what processes need to be followed. The police department has considered this as a serious case and has utilized all its resources to bring those responsible before the law. Days after Vidya was murdered in Jaffna, the president visited Jaffna and met the parents of the victim. He made a statement that a special court process will be followed on such crimes. He said that a special court system will be established by the government to inquire into these crimes. I wish to ask the Minister of Justice, what is the stance of the government on this? We have given instructions to act on the matter that was mentioned by Anura Kumar Disanayake. Once the police concludes investigations, we will directly file indictments and expedite the process in the High Court.
In business news tonight, a presentation and discussion on bilateral trade between Sri Lanka and Switzerland took place in Colombo today.
The discussion, which was organized by the National Chamber of Commerce of Sri Lanka under the theme Let's Trade, was presided by the Ambassador of Switzerland, Walker Nadekun.
But I think in the last year I'm here, the political landscape changed completely, and I see now as a particular good moment to relaunching our economic relations. We have also 50,000 Sri Lankans living in Switzerland, and I see this 50,000 Sri Lankans living in Switzerland as a very big asset for our bilateral relations, especially now as the so-called democratic revolution happened in Sri Lanka.
According to statistics, while Swiss foreign direct investment in Sri Lanka is around $550 million, the trade volume between the two countries is currently an estimated 300 million Swiss franc per year.
Well, we leave you tonight with some footage obtained by Newsfirst reporter Anas Ashraf of a crocodile along the shores of the Mount Lavinia Sea. For the Newsfirst team, I am Shahin Jurongpati.
And I am Nicola de Zoiza. Take care and good night.
I think I have a feeling that it's dead. Yeah?